fumbling, comical father situation. Sometime around 5, 6 in the morning, Michelle kind of jostles me and says, I think it's getting to be time. And, you know, it was like out of a sitcom. You know, I jump up and I'm looking for the bag and fumbling for the car keys. And Malia was delivered at 1 o'clock in the afternoon. And it was love at first sight, you know, feeding her and burping her and changing her diapers. And now she's 5'10".
I know. Well, we asked some fathers from around the country to pose some questions to you. You may recognize a few, like this first one, quarterback for the New Orleans Saints. And he had a very good question, and it's one that all parents deal with, and that's about balance. Drew Brees.
Happy Father's Day, Mr. President. My question to you is, how do you balance the responsibilities of President of the United States along with being a husband and a father?
What's worked for us is making sure that there's certain blocks of time that are family time. And so now, as president, this huge advantage, I live over the store. At 6:30, no matter how busy I am, unless there was an actual national emergency, at 6:30, I'm up and I'm having dinner with the kids. And we're sitting around that dinner table. And so for an hour to an hour and a half, my only focus is them. I
know you were thinking of the fathers that are deployed, that are abroad fighting for us. And here's one such dad from Afghanistan, a colonel.
Colonel Steve Kurta from Kabul, Afghanistan. Mr. President, last 2 years I've missed my Father's Day with my girls. And I wanted to ask you, what would you consider is the most perfect day with your girls on Father's Day?
Well, it's a great question. First of all, let me just say, you know, both this White House and the First Lady's office have been so focused on what we can do on military families. You know, they make such sacrifices for all of us. One of the things we've been doing is talking about how can we, for example, make sure that every father who's deployed out there has access to Skype so that they can see and talk to their kids. Perfect day on Father's Day is just spending time with them. When I think of my most recent memory of a day with them that was perfect, we were up in Maine for a couple of days, and we just went out and looked at a lighthouse, and then we took a walk through this preserve, and Malia started singing and making up a song that had to do with an armadillo who was lonely, and she was just making it up off the top of her head, and Sasha's behind saying, "That song's terrible." And Malia's laughing about how bad her song is. It is not the big spectacular things. It's not the lavish birthday parties. It's not the big gifts. It is those moments where you're just together and you are enjoying each other's company. That's the stuff that lasts. And I suspect that's what is also going to last for them.
Those are the priceless moments.
Yeah, absolutely.
You and your wife had very different childhoods. Yeah. Her mother and father, her father was very present, very strong.
Leave it to Beaver. That's what I always call Michelle's family.
Why is that?
Mom, dad, brother, sister, same house, same neighborhood. And I was all over the place without a father in the home.
Do you approach parenthood differently because you've had this different background?
The interesting thing is Michelle and I have the same values with respect to parenthood. She comes at it based on what she had. I probably come at it based on, to some degree, what I didn't have. Although, you know, keep in mind that the love, the attention, the unconditional interest in a child I got from my mother, and I got from my grandparents. You know, but your grandparents are going to be a little bit different. You know, let's face it, they'll spoil you. They'll let you get away with stuff that your parents might not let you get away with. I see that now with my mother-in-law. Michelle always jokes about the fact that, you know, if we put restrictions on how much TV the girls can watch or what they're eating or what have you, she'll be like, "Oh, you know, what are you talking about?" And Michelle will turn to her and say, "What are you talking about?" We used to have to eat everything on our plate, and we used to have to eat those canned peas that
oh, yes.
you know, you poured out, and there were all kinds of things we couldn't do. And, you know, my mother-in-law will acknowledge that. So grandparenting, you know, by definition is a little different than parenting.
You're very blessed. It's a great partnership between you and Mrs. Obama with the girls. There are some that are not as fortunate.
Right.
They're single dads.
Right.
And one is D. Wade, and he has a question about that of the Miami Heat.
Hello, Mr. President. I recently received full custody of my 2 sons. What is the best advice you can give to a single dad?
I'd probably say the same thing to D. Wade that Michelle has said, I think, in a number of interviews when she thinks back to when I was away all the time. And that is, make sure you're not bashful about asking for support and help from friends and family that you love.
Were you aware as a child on Father's Day, I don't have a father, he's not here?
You know, it was the kind of thing that when you're young, you don't think about, and it's only in retrospect, as an adult, that you realize what you missed. You know, he gave me my first basketball, and it wasn't until I was in my 20s, and I thought back, you know, no wonder I've been. That's part of why I've been playing basketball this whole time. Was that one signal of something that he had given me.
Who's more likely to perhaps follow in your political footsteps, Malia or Sasha?
I don't think either of them will go into politics. Malia is as emotionally intelligent as anybody I know, child or adult. I mean, she is attuned to where people are at, how they're feeling, how they're thinking. You could see Sasha having that I'm going to go out there and, you know, take on the world kind of attitude. But so far, I do not see any inkling of interest.
Since we're talking about young, there was this little leaguer that really wanted to ask you this question. It's kind of sweet.
Dear President Obama, do you miss your father on Father's Day?
You know, on Father's Day, it's not so much me thinking about the past, and it's more thinking about the present and thinking about now. And there are times where I'll walk into the room with Michelle, and the girls are sitting there, and they start laughing, and they start teasing me, and Michelle loves to jump in on that, and I'll be able to pull out of that moment for a second and say, okay, this is really good. You know, this is important. And you sort of take a snapshot of that moment, and you say, you know, at the end of your life, when you think back as to what was worth it,